in a bit.
Yep.
So we are about to start. Thank you for joining us. As I said, my name is Professor Rachel Landis. If you've just joined, I'm joined today by Paolo and Nalina. They're both currently enrolled in the Media Practice and Industry MA. They're going to have a section where they talk about their own experience in this MA, and there'll be time at the end for everyone to ask questions. Just before we start, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. I'd just like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation, upon whose ancestral lands our city campus now stands. I would also like to pay respect to elders, both past, present, and future, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. Now, just a quick warning, and it's all good. We are recording this session. We are not recording the attendees, so we're only recording me, Nalina, and Paolo, so that's okay. What we will do is capture some of your questions at the end, just for our information. If you don't want this to happen, can everyone see that email just down in the left-hand corner of your screen? But as I said, we will not be recording or tracking or doing anything like that. So rest assured, it's all ethically tickety-boo here. Okay, to start us off, what better way than to start with a little film? I'm going to show you a promo that we made last year. It is made actually, it was made with one of our lecturers at MAP, Media Arts and Production here at UTS. So I'm just going to play that for you, and yeah, you'll get a taste of what we're looking for and what we hope the experience will be like.
Storytelling is such a powerful way of waking people up.
I think screen is the most powerful means of shaping how we think about ourselves.
Okay, why media practice and industry now and beyond? It's been very interesting. Certainly COVID has told us, if nothing else, it has a massive impact on the screen industry. As most of you are aware, almost all production around the world shut down. Except, interestingly, at the production of Children of the Corn in Richmond here in Australia. So that's kind of been now seen as the kind of world first best practice of social distancing. No one got sick. Neighbours has resumed filming. But what's really interesting is that it just shows how the skills of being flexible, nuanced, innovative, and demonstrating leadership are key skills that we all need in the future. Those are the people who are going to come out of the situation that we're currently in very well. And I think when Paolo talks about his production later on, you'll see those kinds of skills. And also, you know, things are changing very, very rapidly, both sociologically. I think there are demands on changes in representation in front of the screen and representation behind the screen. That is moving fast and slow in different screen industry, certainly in Australia, moving very fast. There are other real challenges. I don't know whether people are aware of here. We are facing in Australia a current, we're on a kind of precipice of what is going to happen with quota systems. We have for almost 50 years had quota systems of free broadcast television requiring Australian content. There have been increasing demands that the streaming services like Netflix and Disney have just obviously dominating the environment also have those quotas. The jury is out on what will happen with that. There are proposals that the quotas completely disappear, which will again have an extraordinary effect on this industry. Other industries are different, but we're all facing a common, rapidly evolving, changing landscape. And what we try to do with this new MA is build students who aren't just content producers. I mean, that is obviously really critical in those ideas, but real future thinkers. They're people who are entrepreneurs, they're leaders, they can problem solve, they can innovate, they can collaborate with like-minded people, and they're all the ways that they can produce this really, I think, new and interesting content that can challenge some of the status quo and make them stand out. Okay, so it's a really interesting course structure. There's no way you're going to kind of get your head around it. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm just going to do my best. So if you've got questions at the end, I can certainly drill right down into this. Right now, the MA consists over 18 months of 9 subjects. There are core subjects, very few, and there are 3 blocks. And the block is innovation, industry, and production. You take electives from these blocks. You take 2 electives from each block, and then you can take an additional 2 from any block. Okay, so for full-time students, the course takes 18 months, 1.5 years. You need to do 3 subjects per semester. Part-time students can undertake 1 or 2 subjects a semester, and that will depend on your circumstances, whether you're working full-time or whether you have dependents or whatever your circumstances, and depending on how many subjects that can take between 2 and 5 years. Another really interesting option, and I really like this, I think this is a really wonderful idea to look at it as a building block towards an MA, where you just do the graduate certificate in media practice and industry. This is 3 subjects with the core, has to be one of them, and another 2 electives that you can undertake. And what's great about this is that you can actually be quite focused in what you're trying to get out of that graduate certificate. For example, you could come in possibly really wanting to develop a screen project that you were passionate about, and you could take screenwriting or screen ideas and then business of screens or something like that, and the core, and build it around that idea that you would come out with a graduate certificate and that production ready to go into the industry. The other option is that you can do a graduate certificate and then go on to do the MA. You can build it, I will build up into the MA, so you can just continue to build onto that accreditation. Okay, now this is a little bit more detail. And again, please ask me questions at the end about that if you want anything. So these are the blocks. So right now there's story core, which is this compulsory subject. And I think Nelina will talk about that a little bit. Nelina and Paolo have both done it. I take that course. It is really looking at the fundamentals of storytelling in this new screen media savvy, innovative world. And we do lots of different things. You make lots of different projects. They'll both be pleased that we no longer do a written essay, we do a video essay, which is actually kind of extraordinary, really different way to express yourself intellectually. So these 3, so that's the core, that's the compulsory subject. These are the 3 that the electives are taken out of. So innovation is we do advanced creative entrepreneurship and design thinking, which is a really interesting way of iterative building of a project. business of screens, which is very much looking at the development of a project and then the production assets of a project. So you really very much emulate industry practice in developing a project. In industry, we have curation, which is a new area that we wanted to go into because we felt very much that a lot of screen practitioners end up in the curation field, either as film festival directors or something like Vivid or, you know, just even curating a collection of films in a museum space or a gallery space. So it's just a really broadening out the field of possibilities of getting away from possibly traditional kinds of, we do traditional film festivals and all that kind of stuff, but also expand out into more interesting forms of curation, like curated festivals and curated audiovisual ideas. So then, and we also do screenwriting in this. Experiential media, influence in the digital world is a shared subject. That's very much what it sounds like. It's about learning all those skills about marketing and accessing, you know, connecting with audiences. In production, which is a little bit more traditional, I think, but with a view to the future, we do advanced post-production. We do creativity and media production, which is one of my favorite subjects because you make something, you're given a provocation and a challenge every week and you make something every week. Immersive media, which is very much VR, AR, and augmented reality, yeah. And screen ideas, where is a lovely subject where you learn how you're focusing, like screenwriting, on writing traditional scripts, but also scripts for immersive media, and we do a VR project in that as well. So basically, say the way it's working right now is you do 2 from each of those, and then you can do 2 from any of them. So you can sort of, it's very much, you can start as you go through the degree, really thinking about what you're quite passionate about. You might be more production orientated. So you might want to kind of really think about taking 4 of those electives for the production stream. You may see yourself as you develop more of a, you know, entrepreneur, thinking about like, I'm going to start like a Matchbox, or I really want to have a whole suite of creatives working with me and for me. And so advanced creative entrepreneurship, design thinking, business of screens would be something you might want to weight your thinking about. An industry, you know, these ones I think, you know, that again is like really thinking about sort of going in a direction that you want to sort of think your potential career might be as you're evolving through the course going on. So that, you know, we're trying to offer a journey, I suppose, that's really creative, innovative, audience focused, which I think is critical, adaptable, entrepreneurial and production ready skill set. And I think it's a real evolution just from the old fashioned postgraduate film school, which is just go there, make something, and then you come out and there's a big wall in front of you. I mean, what I really want to do with our students in this MA is give them the skills to be halfway up and almost over the top of that wall by the time they graduate. Okay, I just said a lot of these things. So create your own path. That's one of the beauties of this. It really is, I was trying to work out the other day how many different combinations of things that you could do, but I just gave up because there are many, many, many. As I said, we're very future focused. And one of the beautiful things about this degree is the flexibility of delivery. And we're really conscious that people in postgraduate studies have all kinds of different obstacles to their time and challenges to their time. That can be full-time work, that can be full-time family, it can be a combination of those things. So what we've tried to do is keep almost all of our classes at the edge of the working week, if you like. Some are, we're not completely. So for example, the course I do, the core, the compulsory subject is Saturdays. So we work once a month on a Saturday, very long days. Then there's media lab training on some weeknights and some Saturdays. Other subjects are on the weekends, or we push them like to 4 to 7, so people maybe can finish work. But you'll know this all about. So we're trying to do it, working around the realities of people working. Of course, what our future work looks like, it will be more flexible, but I think this is the way we're going. And so we really wanted to try and fit in with the realities of people's lives, and that there are lots of things going on. Okay, so career outcomes and job outlook. I think this is really something that you develop, I mean, as you go. I mean, some people come in and they're like very determined, you know, I want to be a director, but as they graduate, they think, I actually have a lot of skills in producing. I'm a very good, I would be very good at show running and hiring directors and writers in a team to enact my vision. I actually want to go into the experimental arts. I think that's really exciting. So I think, you know, there's many more pathways for our graduates. You can be a traditional filmmaker and look for festival success and going to industry funding and that kind of, you know, making TV programs, all that kind of stuff. Or you may end up thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur or a curator, or a real, you know, experimental person who's really focused on the future of VR, which is very much undeveloped and very much is for young emerging exploratory filmmakers to conquer and develop. What's wonderful is you graduate as well. And this is one of the things, you know, when I was, just between you and me, when I was at the Australian Film and Television School, I was always very concerned that postgraduates got very fixated on their final project, and like just wiping out anything else they learned. And I think that is great and that is important to have a cumulative event. However, I think it's also really important to develop prototypes and ideas and, you know, like, so you graduate with like many things. You graduate with a real portfolio. Our careers are not just one film and then another film and another film. Our careers are very much about developing a suite of ideas that, you know, you know, one idea might really be like just hit the zeitgeist at the right time with the right person, but it's not your only idea. And you're also not going to be devastated if that doesn't get up, because you've got a whole bunch of other ones in your pocket that you developed at UTS. So I just think that's a really healthy, having a broad, rich creative portfolio rather than just the one thing. I mean, you can have many things that are quite deeply developed through this. I'm going to hand over to my students, Nelina and Paolo here, and they're going to take you through their experience. They're at different stages in the degree. Paolo's almost finishing. Nelina, who's going to start off, is she's about, I think halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through. So I'm just going to hand over to them and let them talk to you about their journey.
Hi, thank you, Rachel, and hello, everyone. My name is Nelina, and I'm doing a second year of a Master of Media Practice and Industry. Now, I'm going to walk through a few things that I've found very profound about this course from my real life experience doing this course. First of all, it is a very interactive and practical learning experience with industry practitioners. So what I liked about that is the lessons are highly integrated with both theories and real life examples to maintain that very a healthy balance. For instance, my first semester, we were introduced to real life clients to create an impactful video campaigns for their brand. We managed ideation, concept, storyboard, production to all the way to post-production and delivery finally with feedback from the clients, and we have to change according to what they want. And before the assignment took place, the student had a chance to speak and workshop with art directors from M&C Saatchi. And if you don't know M&C Saatchi, it is one of the largest international advertising agency network. And we learned about storytelling in this digital landscape and manage client relationship, teamwork, utilize individual strength. And trust me, these skills are so important in the workplace when you apply for a job in any sort of creative sector in the industry. And it's really important because we're transitioning to a digital landscape where storytelling actually developed from a very traditional platform to a digital driven platform is ever changing. So it's integrated into beyond film and TV. So it's integrated media work, 360, AR, VR. So it's really, really important that we have that experience. Also, we have a supportive network of past students, staff, and free resources. Did I mention free resources? And the industry partners as well, who are willing to provide assistance, not only to uni-related work, but also industry projects. Because the goal of the MA is to provide knowledge and skill set to prepare you for the workforce, not just to give you a whole bunch of ideas and knowledge that you will never use in real life. So for example, I applied for an emerging producer placement with Screen Australia, and I reached out to Rachel, who have a look at my application, and she provided constructive feedback and also introduced me to other practitioners who also give me more insights about pitching, selling myself as a creative, and relate back to industry trends. So it is very practical and is so supportive. The last point would be you have that experience to showcase your work with industry people who provide constructive feedback and guidance, so you can take your work further than just within a uni environment. So at the moment I'm writing a script which I hope to get funding for both short and digital landscape, and the screenwriter and lecturer Eve also spent her time to workshop on my script, send it to people in her network, and I received such invaluable feedback for it, which it will help me with my funding application. So that's the end of probably the three main points I really want to address. And to sum it up, sorry, that's my little puppy out there. To sum it up, it is a very practical, highly interactive. And I'm going to pass it to Paolo before my puppy started to scream again. So yeah.
Thanks, Nalina. And thank you to Nalina's puppy. My name is Paolo, and I am a music producer from the Philippines. And it is my third and final semester here at UTS. So I'm just gonna go on and start with my 3 points. So as students of the Master of Media Practice and Industry program, we have access to industry standard equipment and facilities. So you have your Blackmagic cameras, your Zoom recorders, Rode mics, lenses, lights, gimbals. We also get to play around with 360 cameras, 3D tools, and green screens for some classes. The building we work in, they have several editing and color grading suites that we can book anytime. There are also video and lighting studios. The sound studios there are amazing. I could literally live in there. So if you're like me, who geeks out over gear and sort of dreams of living in a studio someday, you'll definitely enjoy this aspect of the course. My second point is the holistic approach to being a media industry professional. So the reason why I chose this course over the other media-related courses that I've looked at are, it's because of the balance that they teach between the creative and business side of the media industry. So on one hand, I had these classes focused on advanced post-production, screenwriting, and producing a short indie film, while on the other hand, I also had classes such as media law, curation, and advanced creative entrepreneurship. And what I think this balance does is it prepares you for a change in a very unpredictable kind of industry by equipping you with skills that are applicable inside and outside of the film set. I also believe that knowing about and having experience in all these different sides of the industry would be essential in becoming a great leader. My final point is that your creativity gets challenged a lot during this course. So in all, or at least most of the projects that I've worked on during my stay here, I've been forced out of my comfort zone in one way or another. You know, whether it would involve exploring new technologies or trying out different crew roles. And by now I've worked on different projects already as a writer, cinematographer, VFX artist, director, producer, sound designer. The list goes on. And granted, I wasn't particularly good at all of them, but I think that having at least some minimal experience with all these things, they just make you a better filmmaker in general, and makes you more sensitive and empathetic with other crew members that you work with. So I've definitely grown a lot because of those challenges. And I think the best example that I can give everyone today is the collaborative media project that I'm currently working on. So for this project, we have to produce a short film while observing social distancing. And to make things harder, we are mostly international students in the course. And because of COVID-19, two out of 6 of our members had to go back home to China, and one had to go back to Germany. So we're all working online these days. We're a 3-person team here in Sydney. And so what happened was I wrote a script for the film, and I'm also going to be starring in it and composing the music for it as well. Another person in our team is acting and is acting as the director, producer of the film. And the other group mate is our DOP. So after shooting, we'll be sending our shots to China for post-production. And our other group mate from Germany, he was supposed to act as well, but he didn't have the gear back home. So now his friend from France is going to be helping us by acting and shooting himself as a one-man team. And one thing we did as a whole team was develop a script together, where we had a Zoom meeting with nothing but the synopsis that I had written beforehand. And we just took it scene by scene, and we just brainstormed for the best ideas of how the plot could move forward. So it took us a while, but we figured out how to make it work. And I guess I can't tell you much more about it because we're still in the process of shooting, but we're all having fun, and I'm sure it'll all work out in the end. So anyway, this ties in with what I mentioned earlier about how this course prepares you for change in an unpredictable kind of industry. You know, we really never know what can happen in our industry, and this whole pandemic is proof of that. So I really recommend this course for that and all the other reasons that Nalina and I mentioned. This course just opened up so many opportunities for me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how I can put them to good use after I graduate. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. That's great. Oh, and I'm just going to go on to the admissions, but on that, we really encourage our students. So Nalina and Paolo didn't know each other, but they met each other through a production that that they reached out. They were looking for crew on. So one of the great things is that both, and it's also our undergraduates as well, that we have got a very busy network of people who are in production constantly, and they're constantly looking for people to jump on to filmmaking with them. So you end up with this really extraordinary network, a global network and a local network. And I've seen graduates from UTS, you know, I mean, we've been just recently tracking them down because we're in a process of joining a very esteemed international organization of films called Select. And, you know, I mean, people who met 10, 15 years ago are now running major production companies together. And it was a relationship they forged at university. So I think that's great. Okay, so with admission requirements, this is all pretty straightforward. It's a recognized bachelor degree or an equivalent or higher qualification. So for applicants with a BA, a master's, a grad dip or grad certificate, the degree must be in society and culture. So a Bachelor of Arts or creative arts. If you don't have a degree in this field or society of culture, so it's interesting. I've had 2 applications I have one new student who has a degree in higher mathematics and physics. And what's really interesting, but he'd also had a lot of experience making films and drawing, and he is the most wonderful, wonderful student. So we really encourage people from different walks of life. I've just had an application from someone who has a science degree, but has also got 8 years of film experience because that was her passion, and she's been working for productions and making her own films and cutting. So what we require, if you do come from a different field that's not associated with society and cultural creative arts, we're just looking for work experience. And so we ask those applicants to submit a CV and a personal statement. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to James Liu, who's our head of marketing, and he's just going to talk over the next 2 slides. So James, I think you're there. If you will, and talk to these new slides. So just tell me when you want to change to the next one.
Sure. Thanks, Rachel. So for those of you who are looking at, listening to Juan and also Nalina, you must be thinking about, oh, I can't wait to apply. So for those of you who are looking for application deadlines, if you're a domestic student, so we're looking at the end of June. That's the application deadline. And for international students, regardless of whether or not you're currently in Australia or you're overseas. It's the 15th of June. So the middle of next month is when the application deadlines will be. So domestic students will apply through the UTS online application system, whereas for international students, you can find out more information through our international office webpage. Spring session commences on the 27th of July, 2020, and classes are now open for enrollment. So if you apply earlier, so you might be able to get your offer earlier and enroll in classes to get the timetable that best suits your schedule. If I can get on to the next slide, Rachel.
Sure thing.
Yep. So some of you might have completed some previous studies, or you might have some work experience that you feel might qualify for recognition of prior learning. This is evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So what we'll do is you will fill in a RPL application after you have accepted the offer, and then we'll look at it, and then we'll make an evaluation based on what you provided. As for fees, the domestic students, you only pay for per subject that you're enrolled in. So each subject is $4,264. The maximum number of subjects you can take is 3. So if you take a full-time session, it will come up to $12,775. International students don't have a choice. You have to enroll in a full-time semester as required by the government. So that's $18,620. For Australian citizens, New Zealand special category visas and humanitarian visa permanent residents, you can find out about fee help. So that's available for you. And if you have completed a UTS program previously and you qualify for the 10% alumni advantage discount. Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, thanks, James. Now on to the exciting part. Questions. Now, remember that you can just type them up, but also really, if you've got any questions for Nelina or for Paolo, please ask them as well, and we'll get them involved. So I'm just going to pull up some questions. Can't see, that's not the right one. It's down here. Okay, how does the course compare to the MA at AFTRS? Well, I know that because I was involved in the development of the MA at AFTRS. So I'm gonna, so do I do this? Okay, so yeah. So basically the MA at AFTRS is, it's discipline for specific. So you join, you apply for documentary, for directing, for cinematography, for editing, and so on, production design. So it's completely different. That is very much focused on you staying in your silos, staying in your lane, and becoming, a specialist in that criteria. It's so we're very much thinking. You develop a suite of skills, and it's more about being an innovator and a leader in our MA across a whole range of contents, and very much forward-thinking content. So I think AFTRS, which I am very fond of and have a very good experience working with, that really is for like kind of old-fashioned, flatty, traditional filmmaking kind of practice, whereas we regard ourselves as we do that and a whole bunch of other really exciting things. Okay, so if I chose the next question, if I chose one of the 3 constant, between industry, production, and innovation, will I still be able to join one other class from the other 2? I think that's, you're saying, so if you do 3 between, so you have to do 2 from each strand, and then you can do 2 from any, or you can do 1 from any. Does that make sense? I'm hoping that answers that. If it doesn't answer, ask me that question again. Okay, international student, you obviously, and I hope you're well and things are going okay wherever you are, and you can't make it due to the policies, not to fear. So we've been online all semester. What we've done is I will be online, my compulsory subjects will be online, and that's been working really well. It's actually been quite remarkably successful. We have a very good online system called Canvas that's been beautifully designed in the last 6 months. by a lot of future learning design practitioners. So it's really state of the art. So you're very well supported through that. I'm very accessible. We talk on the phone, we do Zoom sessions, but they're quite interactive. They're not just blah, blah, blah. I've also set it up so that at least I think 4 of the electives will be online. We're also offering some face-to-face electives, but there are options to be online, and then you can be thinking about, fingers crossed everyone, that will semester autumn 2021 will be back to more face-to-face. Do the teaching staff have all industry experience? Yes, they do. We're all filmmakers. Some of us have different. I've got a documentary background. Right now I've got a feature film in development with Screen Australia, Screen West and Film Victoria. Obviously I was trying to finance that at the moment, so that's just got into like stall for a bit. But I make films. I also write books. I've had books published. We have other staff members who are VR specialists. We had someone who had a commission with the Sydney Film Festival. There's Alex who's just finished a feature. Bettina's more of a documentary person. Andrew has just done a project with the National Film and Sound Archive and ACME. So yes, we're all practitioners. And our practice is very current, and we continue to practice, which is the wonderful thing about being where we are. Okay, okay. So if my degree is in liberal arts and a science major in film studies, I think you do. I think you do meet the requirement. I'm not the person who's actually on the front line of that. It gets checked, but by the student services through the application process. It looks fine to me, but they will let you know if there's any questions. I
think the answer is yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Well, yes, we think. We do. I wouldn't, well, it seems to me from that very small sentence that you'd be fine. Can I specialize in screenwriting? We have 2, so there's probably 3 big chunks of this, and this is really what's so great about this MA. Is, for example, in my core, you could nominate to be the writer of the impact campaign you're doing with the client. So yes, that could be that, and that would be a real world live credit experience. We have 2 other, we have screenwriting as an elective, we have screen ideas as an elective, and then in collaborative project, like Paolo, you could also opt to be the writer. So that also in something like creativity and production, you're constantly writing. So yes, you can. And I think what's really interesting about this is you'd have a really deep range of screen practices, because I think learning to do things like write for curation or to write for immersive, which is very different. It's a very specialized skill and very few people are trained in it. Okay, great. Do we learn how to production video and post-production editing? You sure do, and broadcasting. We don't actually do broadcasting because we don't have a television studio. Like a broadcast unit, but we do a lot of post-production. I mean, that's one of the areas I think we're very specialized in. And yes, you learn to shoot. And you know, when I say about shooting, it's just practice. I mean, I've got people, I mean, that's how I learned to be a cinematographer. I picked up a camera and I taught myself and I shot things, then I got credits for it, and then I won a cinematography prize, a couple actually. But the wonderful thing is that Media Lab store is open and it hasn't shut throughout the pandemic, right? So one of the things that we did, I was really concerned that our students wouldn't have a really visceral experience of using gear. So what we did is we sent everyone home with a kit. We sent everyone home in the core subject who was starting off with a really nice camera, 2 microphones, a tripod, and some lights, right? So even if so I'm hoping that we're going to produce the finest cat videos in the world with the highest production values, but it meant that they've got professional gear with them, even in isolation. So they're still, and we're doing lots of training online. I'm aiming very, fingers crossed again, that we can start doing those those practical classes a little bit more interactively next semester, and certainly again, hopefully by 2021. For the students, oh yeah, hey, Nalina, Paulo, this is for you. Can you see those questions? Can you see that one? Yeah.
I can go first. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm mainly a music producer, and I was hoping initially when I started this course, I was hoping to go into film scoring and sound design after graduating. But after going through all these experiences and all these projects, I learned that I have I have more talents besides music production. So I have this plan of producing a TV series where um, I'm also going to be It's going to be about music, and I'm going to be composing the music myself. I'm also going to be writing and producing it, and I'm just gonna. So my plan is to look for people to work with who could direct, be the cinematographer, and act for the series.
Wow.
My plan.
I'm impressed. Showrunner. Why not? Everyone else is doing it. That's fantastic. Now, I like that it's made you more ambitious. That's really exciting to hear.
Thank you.
What about you, Nalina?
Nalina has temporarily dropped out, so we might go back to her again after this.
Zoom doom, as I call it. Just it's the way of the world. Hopefully she'll jump back on. Okay, I've graduated from visual communications design at UTS, and I'm considering either this MA or the Bachelor's of Media Production. So I think you sound like more of an MA person to me. I think if you have, so you have a BA, and I think you definitely sound like, and visual communication design is, I think that gives you a lot of skills that will be really suitable to translate into the MA. So that will be my response to that. Okay, if you come from a non-film background like marketing, advertising, and have limited production skills, is the hands-on element learning curve too steep? No, it's not. And again, it's just, I think what happens, I've had people, look, this is what I always say, look, trust me, filmmaking is not rocket science. It's pretty much like learning to cook. It's just a pretty basic set of technical skills. Coming up with ideas or having something to say about screen content, that's the really hard part. So honestly, I think if you just don't get afraid, we're very supportive, particularly people who are kind of a bit like, oh my God, I can't do this. They're hard to break this stuff. We just really get you back into it. And you know what? People pick it up really quickly. It's not that hard. And look, the other thing is you can work to your strengths. I mean, if you're a leader and you're a nice videos person, I think the thing is you want to be competent in camera work, you want to be competent in audio, you want to be competent in post, you want to be able to use all these tools, but you don't have to be the super expert, because you're going to work with a person who's the super expert. I'm going to hire Paolo to do my music, and I'm going to get him to write my script. You don't have to get, I don't think there's no point in being kind of not very good at everything. It's important to be good enough at most things and to be really good at some things. What's the percentage of group versus individual work? How Paulo found the group work? Paulo, so I'm just going to answer the percentage. No subject can have more than 30% of its entire mark that is group work. So, and in fact, many of our subjects are in 100% individual work. But no subject could ever have more than 30%. But Paulo, do you want to answer that about the group work?
I was just about to say that I think the classes are following those instructions, because I was just about to say that it is about 30% group work versus individual work. I found the group works very, very helpful, very fun too, because everybody comes from different backgrounds. So like Rachel mentioned, we learn from each other. We all volunteer. Most of the time we volunteer to do the roles that we're that we're used to, that we specialize in. But there are also times when no one's able to fill that role, so you're forced upon it. But it's also a good learning experience for me, at least, because I discovered things that I'm good at that I never knew I was before. Like in my case, I never knew that I would be a competent writer or a director, and I only figured that out while working on the projects here.
Excellent. So that's good. That's nice too, isn't it? That when you think you can't do things, you know. I remember the first time I picked up a camera and I thought, oh, but it's all fine. Okay, so can you name some examples of graduates that have done well? Here's the thing. This is so brand new, this MA, and so exciting. Our first graduates will graduate at the end of this semester. So Paolo is the first
Example.
He's the first example. So and it's been really exciting because I think we've all learnt so much along this journey. I mean, we were all very passionate about it. It was really different. We've had wonderful students who I really know have made wonderful relationships. But so watch this space. It's all to come. And I know that, like, already the work that I've seen them made in class is amazing. But yeah, many more to come. I mean, certainly I can speak of our media arts project students, you know, like bazillions of them have done incredibly. I don't know if people know an Australian company called Jungle. They do a lot of comedy stuff. So Chloe Rickardson is one of our graduates. Maya Newell, who's Gaby Baby, and she's just had a new film, My Blood Runs Through It, I think it's called, is on PBS. So lots of graduates, Rachel Ward, blah, anyway, lots of them. So you know, we were a very successful discipline. But this is, yeah, a new MA. Great, watch this space, watch those wonderful graduates. So Nalina, you've come back on. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry, my internet just got cut out.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I call it, Zoom doom. Just, there was a question about group work. How have you found it?
Yeah, so for group work, for this course that I was doing, I was really lucky that all my team members were really responsible and reliable. And everyone has their own strength, you know, because the MA, everyone from different career backgrounds. So we got someone really great with graphic design, but perhaps have a very limited experience with video production. So we kind of like complement each other's skills. Someone can do the graphic work and the other person can do the audio. So it's actually really complementary. Yeah, to have different skill set, because you find people from all different walks of, you know, career background.
I just going to add a little story about this. So this campaign, impact campaign, with a real client that Nalina, I think you were the leader of that team. They produced this extraordinary piece of work for quite a, I think, challenging client. Is that right, Nalina?
Yeah, because it was a technology client. And it was a startup, so the client didn't have it's technology, but it didn't have a lot of technology to showcase, because everything's through computer and cloud work, so from the internet. So yeah, so we just had to try to be creative in the office environment.
So I have to tell you the end of that story. So impressed were they with this beautiful camp. It's just beautiful, and I mean, it just looks totally professional and amazing. I was approached by UTS startups, the entire giant organization, so they can become our perpetual clients. And they've got, I don't know, hundreds of startups. So they're now working with us constantly with those students doing those campaigns. It's incredible. And that's a lot to do with your beautiful work, Nalina. So I just wanted to say,
thank you.
Yeah, so that's, you know, it's interesting and had a kind of real world. Post-production softwares do we teach? Now, Nalina, Paolo, jump in, because I'm not a post expert, and Greg's the post. So we definitely do Premiere Pro and the cloud and After Effects. And so Nalina, are you doing Avid in post or?
No, so we did Premiere in post,
Yeah.
but if you're familiar with Avid, I mean, you can, but I yeah, I don't know if that's industry relevant in kind of a digital landscape.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, we're really very much Premiere Pro in the whole suite of that. And certainly post-production, After Effects, definitely. And I know that Greg is using the Oculus for VR. And someone please tell me, like, what is the name of that?
For some projects, we don't really go in depth into them, but we do learn how to use Cinema 4D,
Yeah.
Adobe Audition, and Photoshop as well.
Yeah.
Unity.
Unity, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, and, you know, we're constantly evolving with that. So, you know, I mean, we're constantly updating that, those softwares. So we've got a wonderful Media Lab manager, Marcus, and Justin, who works with him, who are just very up to date with everything that's going on. And, you know, excitingly, I've started having conversations with Ari. They're very keen for us to have some of their beautiful cameras. So that hopefully will happen next year. Are there any subjects over summer? Yes. So there's not currently a way to fast track the course, but so no, we have talked about that. It's the challenge is that is quite a squeezy amount of time. And one of the things I think is really important is the development time and the thought behind evolving your, you know, the material, the content you're producing, the subjects. That saying, one of the things too is because this is a very young MA, we are now starting, we've just been reviewing the MA and we're starting to think about, you know, adding electives, maybe doing some interesting intensive type subjects that maybe you do over 4 or 5 days, you know, maybe doing a directing focused intensive. But that's something we're going to probably look, we were going to start thinking about it honestly right now, but then we had a pandemic and we were focused on other things like homeschooling and looking after our parents and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So how flexible is the course content if I'm studying full time? Yes, absolutely. People work full time. So like people work full time and study full time. So that's more than possible. Yeah, it's very, very flexible. You need to be a little bit, think about what subjects you're choosing. But like I say, I mean, my subject only happens on the weekend. Curation only happens on the weekend. And other ones that are weekly, we try and push them to the end of the day. So usually you can work and just, you know, you do a Monday on from 4 to 7. Is it possible to do electives in other fields, communication or animation? Unfortunately not at present, but again, this is something we are thinking about developing as the MA evolves. We were hoping to start those discussions again this autumn, but we would very much like for it to become we're already sharing subjects that media law is shared with journalism and strategic communication. Design thinking is a shared subject, so is influence in the digital world. So we're already sharing subjects with other disciplines, so we'd like to build on that, obviously.
Yeah, Rachel, to add on top of that, a
Yeah.
lot of electives actually allow you to step away from video production and focus on animation and game design.
Yeah.
So you do have an option within the MA to do other discipline as well. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is certainly, there's nothing, I mean, as Nalina is saying, we had an extraordinary student, Joe, who's just like an incredible graphics person. So like if he wanted to get into animation, he absolutely has the skills to do it. So even though it's not a standalone discipline, it's not something you couldn't pursue as part of your projects. As a university that focuses on professional practical study, I'm expecting that UTS will have me do projects that will be done as a simulation of the media industry, maybe UTS labs, or it'd be amazing if I could be able to do it in a broadcasting or digital media company. Will it be different? It's being delivered online or this summer semester. So we're not delivering anything this summer. So I can answer that. So we already do this. So the thing they do in the core is working with a real world client. So M&C Saatchi comes in, as Nalina was saying, they give you some skills. You also work with some screenwriters. And basically we create teams who do a skills audit. So I create teams that I think are quite balanced. Then you basically get a client and a brief, and they're real clients. They're not made up clients. They're real people with real demands, and they can be all kinds of critters. And then over about 5 or 6 weeks, you work with them with a memorandum of understanding, and you produce an impact narrative-based campaign for them. So that's certainly a real world, and they then go on and use that product far and wide. We try and get as much industry involvement. Another thing that's really important to know is we partnered with a business school, creative business school called Compton. If you want to look them up online, amazing group of people on that board, probably representing some of the biggest industry heavyweights in Australia and New Zealand. So David Court, who runs that. So that's a partnership subject that we do with his, and that is a really innovative. It's incredibly connected to the industry. We have a lot of industry guests come in. We don't have a formal internship program that we do in the MA. I mean, you can opt to do a subject as an internship. But certainly we can help you like we did. I mean, Nalina, we're happy always to connect people to industry if that's something that is useful to our students. What opportunities are there to screen or showcase your work in a public sphere? Well, we always have a screening at the end. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. We'll probably do an online thing, but we usually have public screening of work at the end of the graduating year. So so we do that. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for Paolo's graduating year, but we'll do something safe.
To add to that, Rachel, there are also some projects that also the film projects that we work on, we still retain the ownership to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, good point. Yeah.
So it's still possible to submit those to film festivals if you think that they're really good enough.
And that's absolutely right. And one of the great things about the curation, are you doing curation this semester?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started, and that was the other thing. You start to, so Margaret, who runs that and authored that wonderful subject, is a very wonderful filmmaker, but she's also was one of she worked for the Sydney Film Festival. She works for Frameline. She's a very, very experienced festival person. And I think it's, she's going to be quite instrumental in helping us to market and distribute our students' work. And I just want to point out, that's a really good point. And I forget that because it afters owns the copyright, whereas UTS, we do not do that. You are the owner of your material you produce here. Okay, one more question. Will the first spring semester be on campus online? Okay, yeah, okay. So I'm not sure if you're in Sydney, the person who's answered this question. If you are in Sydney, we are trying very strongly, and I haven't had 100% confirmation, but if you want to follow up with me, you can. We've been allowed to offer some face-to-face social distance but practical training on campus this spring. I've also made sure there's a suite of electives that are also online, right? So basically the great thing is if you are in Sydney and you can get to campus, know that we are doing some face-to-face training and it will be safe and interactive and practical. If you can't do that option, you'll have enough, a really good broad range of online options. And one of the things I do want to say is that our Canvas online teaching is state of the art. We were asked to be the prototypers for the university, and so it's just absolutely beautiful. I can say that. I mean, I like Canvas. I hope Paolo and Nalina, is that fair? It's quite beautiful, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's good. It's a good system. So if you are living in the virtual world, it's a very engaging and open and fairly
more interactive than the traditional ways of teaching.
Yeah, it's very user friendly. Okay. So yeah, so you can mix it up. Okay. All right. I think that's probably it. I just want to thank Nalina and I want to thank Paolo, and I can't wait to see you in the real world at some point.
You're very welcome.
So thanks for joining us. Thanks, James. Yeah, and I guess we will sign off, and just if you have anything, oh, I've got one more slide. Hang on. I almost forgot about it. There we go. I can see it. Go away. Okay, there we go. So for further course information, be found at that website there. Yeah, and we hope to meet you in the real world or the virtual world, or whatever world. Anyway, stay safe, stay happy, stay creative, learn a new skill, and yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.